Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Art with Toys, and I'm back with another figure review. And it has been a minute, so bear with me. But on the table here, we got the brand new Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Ronan the Accuser figure. So stay tuned, and we'll get into the review. All right, everybody, so taking a look at the box, pretty cool box. It is a larger Marvel Legends box, obviously with the windowless packaging. You got a picture of the figure here on the front, and then in behind you got kind of the comic book illustration. Pretty cool. Guardians of the Galaxy down here, plastic-free packaging, obviously Hasbro. A little bit of a design, Marvel Legends. On this side, you have another picture of the figure in a vanilla pose. On the back, you have another picture of the figure holding his hammer. Legalese there at the bottom, bunch of gibberish that you don't need. And then on this side, the same picture that's on the front is on this side, but in color, and obviously it's featured. So it looks pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this figure. On the top, Guardians of the Galaxy. On the bottom, more legalese. And that's about it for that. So let's get this figure out of the box and take a closer look at it. Okay, and here is Ronan out of the package, and he looks great. I gotta say, the paint they use really makes this figure pop. I have him kind of standing off to the side because I want to point out a couple things. Like, first of all, the hammer is new. That's the only accessory that he comes with, and I will take a closer look at that in a second. But I wanted to point out here, so the head, the hood, the shoulders, all new. The torso is new. The belt with the tunic is new. And then I believe the hands are new, so they're not shared with any other figures. As far as I know, I could be wrong. But I was racking my brain. I'm like, these arms and legs look really, really familiar. And sure enough, they were part of this Colossus figure, which I believe might have been part of the Warlock wave, if I'm not mistaken. So you could see the arms are identical. There's your pins. Ronan is not pinless, so he does have pins in the arms and legs. Obviously, you got the solid green there. Over here you got the maroon red with the yellow touches, and then for the boots you got your solid green and you got your red with the yellow touches there, and all the sculpting is the same, so you can see obviously the lines, the line here in the front. This is raised here as well, so he does share arms and legs with that Colossus, so I did want to point that out just so you know, if anybody was interested. And let's get in and take a closer look at this figure. So taking a closer look at this Ronan the Accuser figure, I wanted to point out something that I really like, and that is, even though the arms and legs are reused, the main parts of the arms and legs are done in this shiny lime green plastic. The belt is in a similar color, but because the belt is molded in that color, it does kind of look different. And then up around the neck, you have the rings. That's painted, so that obviously matches the arms and legs. And the same thing with a little bit of lime green on the forehead. So I think that looks great because it contrasts nicely against the matte finish of the hunter green and the light green line work that is done throughout the figure. So just taking a closer look, and I have employed the use of one of my other lights here. But you got a line that goes across the top of the hood, and that is painted in. That again is sculpted. It's not just a line that's been painted on. And then for the shoulder pads, same thing, hunter green and kind of that matte finish. And then you got the line work that runs through. And again, this is sculpted on, it's not just painted on. Taking a look at the rings here around the neck, all that has been sculpted, so that looks good. And in fact, like, this is a new head sculpt, and you know, this thing that comes around his chin is also sculpted on, so there's actually like a chin strap type thing there. And I think that head looks super good. It's menacing. He's got some wrinkles in the lips there. Let me see if I can bring that closer, if you could see. So that looks good. And then obviously the blue on the face breaks up all that green, and then you have black around the eyes, and then you have the eyes are just whited out, and he looks angry, so that's cool. He's ready to do some work on the Guardians. Focus back in there. And then on the tunic, you have, again, the hunter green. All these lines are sculpted in. You got the molded belt there with, I don't want to say they're patches, but there's a design that's kind of incorporated in the belt. And then the lower part of the tunic, which that is attached to the belt, but it looks like it seamlessly runs all the way down. That is done in the hunter green. And then again, all these lines are sculpted here as well. And then for the arms, again, you have Colossus's arms, but they're done in that shiny lime green finish. And then you have just the standard hunter green that's on the gauntlets and the hands. And here's the details on the hands. As you can see, I do think these are, you can focus in, these are newer hands. I don't think I've seen these before, but I could be wrong. So if I am wrong, please let me know in the chat below. But otherwise, I think that all looks really good. And then the legs, like I said, are also part of the Colossus figure. So those are done in the lime green at the top and then the solid hunter green at the bottom. And again, all that looks good. Now, you do have all the sculpt work here in the gauntlets and the boots that were left over from the Colossus figure. Could they have filled them in or painted them? Who knows? Maybe it wasn't in the budget. Maybe it's not accurate. I don't know. Like, it could vary. Nonetheless, it doesn't bother me. I'm fine with it. To me, it's just part of the armor, and it's just a detail in the armor. Here's the back. And I think that all looks good. They continued the line work and the sculpting and the paint and everything on the back of the figure. They didn't skip out and, you know, not paint this part or anything of that nature, which I think is cool. So kudos to them on that. And yeah, I think all in all, this guy really, really looks good. And it's going to be fun to do some figure photography of him. So with that, let's get into articulation. Actually, before I get into articulation, let's take a look at the hammer here. So you have the hammer done kind of a gunmetal plastic. This is not painted plastic. This is molded plastic, but it doesn't have like the cheap plasticky look. I'm not gonna say it's like full on like realistic or anything, or you know, it probably could use like a dry brush of a gunmetal or a repaint. But it's not as bad as some of the ones I've seen. The one thing that does bother me is the seam where they put the two pieces together, and it's got kind of this wobbly feel to it. So obviously you can see the handle has been put into the hammerhead there, and it has a little, you can feel a wobble, but it's not like something that is going to bother you or feels like it could break at any time. The handle actually is done in a harder plastic, and what I like about that is if I display him and he's holding this hammer over time, this shouldn't bend. It might bend a little bit, but it shouldn't bend too much. If you guys know, with those gummy ones, over the course of time they just bend, and you really have to use heat to kind of get them back to normal. But all the blue here is sculpted in, and that all looks good. Then you got just kind of the straight metal piece here. You got the handle with the grip. So all this is textured in. You can hear it. You know, you got some lines going down here. Again, just standard handle. More textured part there. And then you have this spiky end at the bottom. That all looks good. And then more texture here, more bumpiness. But that all looks good. And then they did a nice job of incorporating like damage. So there's a little bit of damage there. And then up here is some, that could be just the plastic where there's imperfections, but kind of fits the aesthetic. And then you have scratches and stuff here, and scratches and dents and all that stuff. So yeah, you know what I mean, this thing could benefit from a little bit of a repaint, but even if you didn't want to, all in all, it's still pretty good. So all right, now let's get into articulation. Getting into articulation, so something cool about this figure that Hasbro did that they did not do with this Ronan, which was part of the 10th anniversary wave, was with the comic book Ronan here, they have the hood attached to the head, but the hood goes under the shoulder pads and it's a floating piece. So when his head moves back and forth or left and right, it just floats under those shoulder pads, and the shoulder pads stay put. If you remember, with this figure, the hood and the shoulder pads were all connected. This was all loose piece, and it was connected to the top of the head. When you turn the head, all of this turned with it, and you'd have the shoulder pad sticking out here if he was looking in that direction, or vice versa. It was dumb. It was a huge L for that figure, and it was salvageable though. So what I did was I cut the hood off of the head and kept the head on, and then I put a dab of super glue here and here, and that holds the shoulder pads and the hood on, and the head moves freely inside of the hood. And that was my solution to fix that. But huge L with that figure. They did not make that same mistake twice, which is cool. So as you can see, you can look left and right, and you don't have to worry about him looking stupid when he does it. So that's awesome. The head will go back. It is on a disc hinge, and that's pretty much the most that I can get it. So that's not too bad. I mean, obviously it's going to be somewhat hindered by the back part of the hood. It will go forward that much, so he can look down. He is going to be taller than most figures, so that's probably good, because now he can look down at whoever he's standing across from. Like I said, the shoulder pads are pegged in, so arms will go out, but as you can see, it will come out of the peg. So I've seen that the most you can get it without it popping out is about that high. And then the arm will go all the way around, but if you try to go all the way around, boom, you're gonna pop that out. So unfortunately, you're kind of stuck with the arm going about this far forward. Hold on, let me get the shoulder pad pegged back in. So it'll go that far forward or so without that shoulder pad popping back out. And then it'll go back about that much. And then he does have an upper bicep swivel. He's got a single jointed elbow that does have the pin. That was tough, but that glossy paint, usually when it comes from the factory and it's been sitting a little bit, you got to give it a little bit of muscle there to kind of crack it loose or whatever. But that is as much bend as you're going to get. Again, single joint. You do have the pin there. Again, he's a big, bulky dude. He's not doing a lot of dynamic stuff, so that may just suffice for you. Here's his ab crunch forward, which I think is pretty good. And it's kind of funny because Hasbro's usually like the back or the backwards crunch or whatever you want to call it usually has more range than the frontwards crunch in a lot of figures. But in this one, they actually, in my opinion, they got it right. I mean, no one's going to bend back, you know, naturally super far. So that's the backwards crunch you get. And again, that's compared to the frontwards crunch. And move his arm out of the way. So I like that. I'm glad that they did that. You do have a waist swivel. So that is there. And then you do have a upper thigh swivel there. Your leg is going to kick up with no problem. So again, that tunic has that split and it gets out of the way. It's going to go back about that far. It's going to go out actually that far, which again is not that bad. Again, bulky guy, he's not doing a lot of dynamic stuff, but he does have a pretty decent split. He's got your double jointed knee, which again, it's a big leg, and you do have the sculpt of the boot that's going to run into the upper thigh. So that is the range you're going to get with the leg. As far as the knee goes, there is no boot swivel. That is not there unless mine is stuck, but it does not appear to be. That is molded. So that is what it is. And then your foot's going to go that far forward. It's going to go that far back. And your ankle rocker is going to work just fine. So again, to me, this is all I really need with the Ronan figure. I mean, the only gripe would be the arms are somewhat restricted in a sense because the shoulder pads, and it's not even that the shoulder pads stop them, it's because the shoulder pads pop out. And if you get the arm, the range of the arm too far in one direction, obviously you're just not going to be able to go back and pop that shoulder pad in after the fact once you get the pose done. So that is a little bit of a gripe. It's not a huge deal, but all in all, I like it. I think it's good. So let's get into comparisons. So apologies, as when I was doing the articulation section, I forgot to show the wrist articulation. So pardon the change in scenery here. I was setting up for a shot to do the thumbnail. But on the right hand, you do have the regular hinge. And then on his left hand, you have the up and down hinge. So that'll be good for, you know, pointing or holding the hammer. But did want to point that out. So sorry about that. Thanks. So here is Ronan the Accuser next to the Marvel Legends Classic Thanos and the Marvel Legends King Thanos. So I think those look pretty good. Again, just the contrast with these cosmic figures when it comes to the paint. You know, on this figure, it's the shiny golds versus the matted or somewhat matted blues, and then in the blues you got lighter blues kind of sprinkled in at depth. Over here you got, you know, the shiny blues or the metallic blues mixed in with the matte golds. So it really just makes these figures stand out and look awesome. All right, and here he is next to the Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Space Venom and the Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Wave Build-A-Figure Titus. All right, here he is next to the Diamond Select Thanos, which many people consider the greatest Thanos figure of all time. I love that figure, even though it's kind of a brick. Doesn't have a ton of articulation, but it does the job. And the Diamond Select Destroyer, which is, to me, again, one of the GOAT figures that Diamond Select has ever made. I love that thing. And here he is with the Disney Store Diamond Select Thanos, which I think also came out in a general release, but may have come with less accessories. And then the Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Apocalypse. And again, just wanted to highlight the, you know, how good, if you look at Apocalypse, the metallics and the matte finishes go so well together to make these guys pop and really look comic booky. So yeah, I also really loved taking pictures of that Apocalypse. And here's how he stacks up next to NECA Alf and the NECA box set Shredder that came in the box set with the Krang hat and the t-shirt and a couple of other things. And I really like that Shredder. And here he is again next to his MCU movie counterpart, the Marvel Legends, I believe, 10th anniversary Ronan the Accuser figure, and the Diamond Select Beta Ray Bill. All right, and to wrap these comparisons up, I have him next to the Entertainment Earth Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy box set figures. This was a pretty cool box set that came out a few years back. Had a decent amount of accessories, and Gamora actually came with a cloth cape. She came with kind of the open hard plastic cape, but she also came with that cloth cape, which, if you guys know soft goods with Marvel Legends, is pretty rare. But you have Gamora, Star-Lord, Drax, Groot, and Rocket. I would like to see these figures, for the most part, upgraded either in a single release or box set again. Rocket, his lower legs, basically the lower half of the body doesn't move. Tail moves, arms move, single jointed elbows, hinge at the head, but the lower legs, he's stuck like that. So you pretty much get what you get with that one. Groot, I'd like to see them make a bulkier Groot or a more buff Groot. Diamond Select came out with their Groot that was part of those Guardians figures. I do have those. I'm not going to bust them out for comparison purposes here, although it would be interesting to see them next to this Ronan. But, you know, they came out with theirs, and to me, it's the essential Groot. Groot. But it's the essential Groot, in my opinion. So I still like this one, but I think that's the best one. Drax on that old body. Arms don't go down all the way, so I'd love to see that updated. Star-Lord shares that body with a few other figures like the AIM Soldiers and the Ghost Rider figure. So it's a little bit outdated. you know, some of the cuts there at the shoulders and things look weird. So not the worst figure, but you know, a nice upgrade would be nice. I mean, I think it is due. And then for Gamora, I would like to see her on that new Black Widow body with the butterfly shoulders, double jointed elbows, just the better posability. She is a character that pretty much gets down and when it comes to doing dynamic stuff and, you know, battling and fighting and being a warrior. So having full capability to pose her and all those different positions and poses and things of that nature would be awesome to have. So that is that. Let's get into final thoughts and we'll wrap this one up. Oh, before I get out of here, why don't we throw Angela in there? Let's see what she looks like with Ronan. Again, underrated Marvel Legend. What a great figure this was. That nobody hardly talks about. It is awesome. So there she is with the Guardians and Ronan as well. All right, and to wrap things up, I think this is an excellent release by Hasbro. I can tell you that, you know, I haven't been going all in on Marvel Legends as of late, not finishing full waves and things like that like I used to, but I'm super happy to have this guy in my collection. Finally have a Ronan. I never got to build a figure, and, you know, the Build-A-Figure, you know, had some outdated parts to it, and it was done in a dull green, and it just was hard to come by, and it got so rare to the point where I think it was being bootlegged. So never got that one, so I'm happy to have this one in my collection. I think he's going to look great with the Guardians. But on top of that, you could put him on a villain shelf with Red Skull, Dormammu, Psycho Man, High Evolutionary, Kang, and they're just going to look amazing together. You know, the classic bright colors, the greens, the purples, the pinks, and all that those characters were illustrated with are just going to look really cool on the shelf together. So you could do that, and obviously, again, you could put him with your Guardians of the Galaxy teams and stuff like that and have him posed up with them. But with that, I am out. So everybody be good to yourself and each other. Peace.